Hey y'all, we're here with Drew Peters, VG Nutraceuticals. He's been in the space forever. If there's a brand that you've been using, he's probably been involved. Thank you for being here, brah.
Of course, it's always good to hang out with the NuLiv crew. It's Supply Side 2024. It seems every year we have something interesting to talk about, either a new product that I've worked on along the line or something that indirectly we've connected on, or you have a new innovation-wise you brought to life. And this year, actually, we got to do something pretty special. And I can tell because everybody's eating them at the booth and coming by for them. We made a protein donut. A big part of what we've been working on this year, or at least me, is focusing on new things on a functional food space. I'm head of R&D at Master Foods, among doing many other things, and we came with a fun idea. You made a note that we've been seeing trends in the health and beauty space, beauty from within. A lot of people are putting your astragin in things like, collagen powders, standalone things like capsules, beauty formats. What's a new innovative way we can get, our ingredient into more products to help people get better long-term skin health? How can they improve their health by having something delicious that's kind of offsetting the junk, right?
I was gonna say, and you're meeting them where they're already eating naturally. If you're doing a powder, they have to add it into something, right? But if it's a food, they're already eating food, right?
Yep.
So it's pretty. And who doesn't like a freaking donut, right?
That's the point. It's something like, how can I have something that I don't mind eating that can be a fun, functional snack while being a little bit better for me? But then we're taking a step further, not going just for a healthier version of it. So how can we get some kind of added benefit to it? You're eating things focused on the vitamin content. You're eating things focused on antioxidants. So why not eat things that can help with from beauty from within? So what kind of fun formats? I noticed that, in general, nobody's really executed like a good functional donut, right? So that was kind of the inspiration.
There are brands out there doing protein donuts, but are usually pretty dry.
Yeah.
Okay, let's actually answer that question. Why are most protein functional foods really dry and still? The sensory is off. The sensory perception is off.
Honestly, it's a very tricky thing because a lot of times, and there's an analogy for that, you're trying to fit 15 pounds in a 5-pound sack, right? I self-edited that. You're trying to cram a lot of protein powder or a lot of things that have moisture absorbing and not in a good way properties to it that's dry out products, whether it be whey protein isolate, whey protein concentrate's a little bit better, it's a little more fatty. I like using milk protein concentrate. So
let's explain this for the layperson. So basically what Drew is saying is the protein itself is sucking up all the moisture in that bar. So that's why generally you're getting dry bars, right?
True. Or that you're not using things traditionally in like baked goods. Like a lot of times in the healthier space, people aren't going to be as interested in a healthier donut if it's got like say 20, 25 grams of fat in it, right? Like a traditional donut, it's a fried dough. It's naturally going to be more moisture content. When you start adding in things to offset that, whether it be protein or alternative sweeteners or fibers to bring the fat content down, to keep the carb content down, to bring the protein content up, it's a
How do you maintain the moisture problem? Because these are moist. These taste good.
So it's a combination of things. One is that you have to find a nice balance in terms of how long you're baking them, right? That's a trial and error thing. It's really hard to replicate something, on a large scale to get to stay moist. Is it going to be shelf-stable? You can bake something and be perfectly moist. Man, that word I hate already. Moist. But to keep it stable and moist for a while is one of the challenges. So by offsetting that, one thing I found that just from the different work I do, typically in baked goods, things like milk protein isolate, which is a combination of naturally occurring casein and whey. This is what naturally occurs in milk, 80 to 20. It tends to hold moisture a lot better compared to a whey protein isolate. A whey protein isolate is going to be the most drying, aside from whey protein hydrolysis. It's going to tend to absorb the moisture.
Time out, let's explain people. So your protein comes in a couple of things.
Yep.
WPC, whey protein concentrate, which is 80%?
It depends. It ranges from anywhere from 30 to 80%. Yeah. So I'll give a quick breakdown of each. Whey protein isolate, I'll take one step back. The fastest digesting, purest protein you can get is technically casein hydrolysis. It's a pre-digested, basically protein peptide. It tastes absolutely horrible. It tastes like sour milk, kind of, because it's already pre-digested lactose, essentially, right? Or dairy-based enzymes. So beyond that, whey protein isolate is what most people think of. It's a very highly processed, very purified, lean form of whey protein. Think of it this way: you have like a 96.4 ground beef compared to an 85.15 ground beef. Which one has more fat content? The 85.15. It's going to be softer. It's going to stay more moist. The fat's going to keep it from drying out, right?
It's going to be more moist.
Yeah. The trade-off there is that you have not as quote-unquote lean of a protein, but it's more juicy. Would you rather eat like a super lean, dry sirloin steak or a ribeye? The ribeye, right?
Yeah.
But your trade-off is higher calories, higher fat, lower protein, right? So all those things kind of are good examples of that at play. So the whey protein isolate is going to be the highest protein content, lowest carb, lowest fat, but it's going to be a little drier, but it's going to be the highest protein, right? The step below that is like WPC, whey protein concentrate. And that can range anywhere from like a low grade, well, not necessarily, but lower protein readout of like say 30% all the way up to roughly like 80% or so. You're filtering out less things. So there's going to be a little bit more fat depending on the WPC. You're going to have in things like a little more lactose content and carbs, which can be a good or bad thing. If you have lactose sensitivity, then yeah, you may need to stick with that whey protein isolate. The downside too, a lot of people don't think of when it comes to whey protein concentrate is there's good uses for both. I actually like whey protein concentrate because it's more like a whole food.
And it's more cost effective.
To a degree, but you're also not filtering out some of the good stuff. When you have whey protein concentrate, naturally occurring immunoglobulins, lactoferrin, things like that are left in the protein. So honestly, I don't mind a good WPC or blending it with a WPI to get some of those benefits of both, but also create a nice, smoother mouthfeel. And that leads us to milk protein isolate. And that's your naturally occurring combination of casein and whey, about 80-20 roughly. That's when you drink milk. That's what the natural is in milk. It's milk protein isolate, right? The nice part about that is casein inherently, the reason it takes longer to digest is it kind of like gets gelatinous. It forms like essentially a gel in the stomach. Your body has to break it down.
It takes longer to break down.
Yeah, it just takes time. It's kind of like a time release, quote unquote, protein. It's a long digesting protein. It also tends to hold moisture really well. So when you use something like a milk protein isolate, you're getting the benefit of using casein, which holds moisture. It's great for that aspect, but having the high protein grade because it's an isolate for the things are filtered out, and you have the natural occurring isolate to bump up the protein and keep the fat low. All those things are kind of nice where it kind of comes together to create a great product.
All right, so Drew in his R&D profession made this delicious box of little donuts. They're about 2.5 inches in diameter. So now for the entrepreneur out there, what is the MOQ for making something like this? How many of these little donuts can you make?
Well, with us, it's not so much by individual donuts. We kind of go by finished boxes. Because obviously, if we're making something small, it's going to be a higher amount per bake, right?
If you're a supplementer out there, you want to get your hands on making something like this, how many boxes do you make?
Typically, for most bakes, it usually works out to about 2,000 boxes or so.
And these are 12 units per box? Is that good?
Depends on what they want to do. This one you can do a 6-pack, a 12. For me, if I'm selling this, I would probably, if this is my own brand, I would probably either package a package of 2 to 4 or even 3. You're not going to buy one single little mini donut, right? In this case, they're mini donuts. So I think the idea was to combine them for like a 4-pack. You get 4 donuts.
Okay, so you usually make 8,000 mini donuts.
Exactly, and that works out to like 2,000 boxes, depending how many units you want to do. Like, if I have, 12 packages of 4 donuts, right?
Okay. How long does it take if a brand has an idea for it to come from an idea to this, a reality?
That's another variable one, but in general, it depends how much time I have, to be quite frank, and honestly how challenging the product is. So this is not a from scratch recipe, even though it is. In this case, I went to set out to develop the donut. I'm like, okay, what applications do we have that would work well in a bake, that could have the properties of a donut,
formula,
right?
Okay.
In that case, I took a really good brownie recipe that I'd worked on in terms of, okay, I like the moisture, I like how it rises, I like the final texture.
You like the macros?
That could end, I like the macro. That could end up as a donut. However, to perform as it needs to in that pan, to have the moisture, the macros, you have a baseline, but it took some adjusting. Quite frankly, when I sat down and actually focused on making a donut, it took me about 2 days.
What about the actual production process?
It's the same type of thing when it comes to that. For in a perfect world, if you have your product ready, you have a pilot product approved by us, you have everything ready to go, and you're to place a PO. Okay, it's not so much going to be on how long it takes to manufacture it. It's going to be the variables on the opposite side. The flavoring for your product. Typical flavor house is going to take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so there's 4 to 6 weeks right there. In terms of the packaging, same thing. Like the foils and things like that, the wrappers are typically pretty quick, like a digital print. That can range anywhere from 10 to 14 business days. If you're sourcing something, say internationally, you're buying a massive thing of it in bulk, you're going to get a longer lead time, but then you're going to get cost savings. But say a locally done digital print or whatever it is in terms of your flexo print, right? That could be over 10, 14 business days. Your boxes depends on your vendor, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer if it's a peak season.
So you're looking at 4 months?
Yeah, realistically, just because I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver, have it ready, because there's parts out of your control. Like example, when you buy the time, you place a PO, order all the raw ingredients, order the flavor. A lot of those things are made to PO, especially on the flavor side, because they have about a year shelf life. They start to degrade, they break down, they're not as potent.
This is important. So for brands out there, you're getting into the functional food space.
Yep.
The shelf life is obviously less than a powder.
Yes, well, that's actually another challenge. Most baked goods or bar products, you could probably aim for about a year shelf life. Realistically, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Quest. I don't care if it's One Bar. I don't care if it's Metrex. These massive giants in terms of bars. At the end of the day, they're a food. Yeah. They're going to break down. Yeah. You're not. I'd be concerned if you had something that was supposed to be like, a palatable thing you eat, and it tastes perfectly fine, right? Then there's something that's probably not in the product breakdown. At the end of the day, you're using natural components or a blend of natural, artificial, whatever it is, to create a food product. It's not meant to stand a nuclear war, right? And it's not going to break down or degrade. Okay, so the moisture, the freshness, the flavors, everything like that. Over time, they're going to break down. So I would tell people on the safe side, your best product is probably going to be your first, most times, like 8 months or so. It's perfectly fine to eat it past that, up to that year. Even then, if you go beyond that, it's probably fine. It's just not going to taste as good.
Some of the flavors, So if you're a brand, you get into the functional food space, Drew freaking Peters, and you heard it from himself, you can launch with as little as 8,000 of these little bad boys.
Yep.
Anyone who's ever had Drew's baked goods, they're freaking delicious. Yes, the fat content is a little bit higher, but it offsets the lack of moisture I get in protein products. So, and then honestly, it's like eating a really healthy, delicious donut or brownie.
Yep.
With the macros you're looking for still.
In this case,
feel like you're sacrificing, right?
For an example for you guys, I mean, it's not going to be the leanest thing ever. That wasn't the intent. At the end of the day, it's a donut. However, think of it this. The average donut maybe has, anywhere from 18, 22 grams. It depends on what kind. It's a mega double layer thing, right? But for example, think of it this way. If you're eating 4 of those donuts on this basic macro, 4 of them, you're going to get by anywhere about probably 18 grams of fat. Your carb content, though, is going to only be about 20 grams. And your protein is going to be at 25.
Yeah.
So all things considered, 240 calories roughly, and you get 24 grams of protein. The carb content net carb content's low, and your fat content's acceptable because you're still maintaining that mouthfeel. It's a hell of a trade-off. You're not going to have
satiated.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the part too. And one last thing to remember is I always remind people at the end of the day, it's a donut. It's a cookie. It's a brownie. It's meant to be a treat. It's not meant to be something where in a perfect world, I want a donut that has no fat, no carbs, 20 grams of protein, and a mini protein donut to taste amazing. You got to pick
moist.
And moist, right? You got to pick your battles. Yeah. So that's kind of the trade-off there.
Drew Peters, if you have any kind of functional foods you're thinking about out there, give them a holler. I won't drop your email in case people start spamming you. But you know how to find him. QR code. He made a special protein with astragin, our collagen endosynthesis. Yep. Boost your own collagen content while eating a delicious donut. That's moist. Winner chicken dinner.
Winner chicken dinner. That was good, my friend.